Hello and welcome to the video lecture on using Thomson Reuters Checkpoint at San Diego State. So we're going to discuss what is Checkpoint and how do I find it here at the university, what's in Checkpoint, because we need to know what's in there, and then lastly we're going to talk about how to search through Checkpoint. And we'll even use a example text research issue and kind of follow it through so you can see how that might be done in real life. Okay, so what is Checkpoint? So Thomson Reuters is a legal information company that years ago bought a product known as RIA Checkpoint. And so you'll still hear it referred to occasionally as RIA or RIA Checkpoint. And it's a web-based tax law research tool, and it contains the vast majority of all relevant primary sources of tax law and a robust database of secondary or interpretive tax law. So this is where you go when you're looking for authoritative guidance on tax law. It's not that Google isn't great. Google is great. But Checkpoint is up to date. It's current. It contains all the latest tax law changes, and it's just a wonderful tool for finding out what the tax law is. And it contains some things you can't find, even when you Google it. So to be clear, Checkpoint is one of many of the tax research services that are available on the market. So if you go to work for an accounting firm, and they have a different research tools such as CCH and Teleconnect, Bloomberg BNA, LexisNexis, or Westlaw, for example, if you work in a law office. They're all also very capable tax research services. But San Diego State only has one subscription, and that is to Checkpoint. But what you would find is that these tools function very similarly. If you can use one, there's a pretty good bet you can use the others, and the learning curve would be short. You'll pick up steam right away if you end up working somewhere that doesn't have Checkpoint. Okay, so how should this tutorial help you? Well, look, what we're going to do is we're going to provide an overview of how to get to and use Checkpoint. I'm going to try to point out what's available to you, how to find it. But what this won't do is make you an expert in tax research. The reality is that kind of comes with years of practice. Even if you take my graduate tax research course at San Diego State, even 15 weeks isn't going to make you an expert in tax research. You just have to practice. Okay, so let's start with how to get to the service. So you access Checkpoint from the San Diego State Library. And the good news is, unlike when I was your age, I don't physically even have to visit the library. Everything you need is available online. So go to the library's homepage. And Checkpoint is a database. And probably the easiest way to find it is go A through Z. And even though it's called Checkpoint, it's still under RIA Checkpoint. So just scroll down and select Checkpoint. Okay, now you're in. So once you've found the service, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what is in Checkpoint. And we're going to flip back to the software here in a second. But we're going to talk about breaking up the world of tax law into two types of sources. The first is primary sources. And these are actual sources of tax law. These are the official sources. So that's the Internal Revenue Code, the regulations, any rulings issued, any court cases surrounding tax issues. These are all primary sources. And then the other set is secondary sources. So these are interpretive sources that are provided by Checkpoint to help us understand perhaps what the primary sources are saying. And we'll soon learn that if you've never read the Internal Revenue Code, sometimes you need an interpreter. So the three big interpretive sources are the Fed Tax Coordinator, the Fed Tax Handbook, and the U.S. tax reporter. And we'll talk about what's inside of those more when we get back into the software. So let's go there now. All right, so we're back in Checkpoint, and I think this is true of all of them. Years ago, when they installed it, the demo had Estate of Hubble in the search line, and I'm pretty sure it just comes up for everyone, and I'm not sure why that's relevant, but it's not. But as you can see, they have the materials more or less grouped by the type. So here's the primary source materials, here's the editorial materials, and you can find the Fed Tax Coordinator, which was one of the primary, sorry, I shouldn't use that term, one of the significant secondary sources. The Fed Tax Handbook was one of the significant sources, and the U.S. Tax Reporter is also one of the significant sources. And over here you can see the code, the regs, and federal cases. Now, these little plus buttons blow out that section, so you could look at the code, which is of course the current code, but if you wanted to look at what a particular code section had looked like in the past, you can actually go into the history because, of course, sometimes you're working on this year's taxes, but you may have a client that you're dealing with an issue from years ago, and you need to pull up what the code read years ago. So each of these has a blowout, and what that allows you to do is make a different choice about what it is you want to search. So, for example, if I want to search all primary source materials, you can see that by checking that box, it chooses all of the databases. If I only wanted to, on the other hand, just search the current code, I can select only the current code to search. And one of the issues with searching in Checkpoint that makes it a little bit different than Google is you really need to make a choice about what it is you want to search, because you're going to see that even with some restrictions placed on what we search through, the number of hits we get back is so large that you can't search everything all at once. You just get too much garbage in your search, and you have to perform a search within your search, and it just doesn't make any sense. So we're better off making some choices up front.